It's time to do our Redskins analysis, brought to you by Fork Union Academy. Our good friend Trevor Matich is on the line. Okay, Trevor, so it was 29-26. The Vikings prevailed. They both went in with exactly the same record. Now the Vikings are a better team than the Redskins. Hard to believe. What happened?
Well, what happened was the defense melted down in the second half. Defense played very well in the first half, and then in the second half, they just busted assignments. Mentally, the secondary checked out, where you had, instead of guys playing the same coverage, you'd have the safety playing one coverage, the corner thinking it was a different coverage, and some Viking receiver running completely free with no one within 10 yards of him over and over and over again. And that was a recurring theme in the second half.
All right, so I agree with you. The reason that this game was lost had to do with a porous secondary. Something happened at the halftime, an adjustment made that just for some reason didn't work, or the players did not understand. I give you that. However, I don't think that RG3 set the world on fire.
No, RG3 did not set the world on fire, but he actually played a lot better than I expected he would after being off for 7 weeks. He threw a lot of passes that were wobbly ducks. I mean, in high definition, the slow-motion replay, you'd look at that football, and it wasn't spinning much. It looked like it would look like a weather balloon, for goodness sake. But he still completed 62% of his passes. He connected deep to Deshaun Jackson a couple of times. And overall, even though he got sacked 5 times, the protection was not there. And this is a good sacking defense.
Yes.
I thought the rust that was there on RG3 was not the reason that the Redskins lost this game. He almost pulled it out.
But the rust was predictable, was it not? You knew he was going to be rusty coming off the bench. Why not play the guy who just defeated the Cowboys?
Well, that's what I thought. See, I thought that it was very risky to start RG3 because you either had him doing very, very well or a big, huge disaster. For example, that pass protection, wouldn't you want to know if your offensive line would be able to handle the pass rush before you stuck him in there so you wouldn't have to either expose him to injury or bench him? And early in the game, Blitz came free up the middle and sacked him very awkwardly into his legs. And he bent over in a very awkward position. And I think that kind of dinged him up a little bit, but it didn't seriously hurt him, I guess, because he didn't come out. But the point is that it was a big risk, in my opinion, to not bring him off the bench. But I think that risk paid off because RG3 was not the problem in this game. Overall, given all the circumstances, RG3 played well enough to win this game. He didn't play awesome, but he's been out for 7 weeks. He played well enough to win, and this defense, Minnesota, was better than Dallas's defense last week.
Well, and isn't it fair to say that if the Redskins defense that helped the Colt McCoy-led Redskins beat the Cowboys last week in Dallas, if they had shown up yesterday, we'd probably be talking about a different outcome.
Right, and the thing is, we talked about the second half and the miscommunication in the secondary, and once in a while that's fine, but it was terrible. It was also terrible with run defense in the second half, where Norv Turner is the offensive coordinator for Minnesota. He made some good adjustments in the second half to run the ball into places that they didn't in the first half, and the Redskins didn't adjust very well. But I do want to suggest this, though, that the secondary performed so well against Dallas, in part because they were incredibly aggressive in their pass rush. That meant that they were simple in the secondary. They played a lot of man coverage. And it's hard to bust that because you just follow that guy around. In this game, they were more complex, I imagine, trying to fool the Vikings' rookie quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, into throwing some interceptions. But in doing that, they played several different kinds of zone coverage, and it was in those coverages that they had the miscommunication.
So maybe they need to keep it simple, stupid, as they say, and be a little bit more effective. Let me ask you a little bit about what we saw yesterday with RG3. There were a couple of, as you said, he got sacked 5 times. One of them, you're right, you look at the replay, and coming off injuries to his ankle and knee, I don't know how he got up from that, but he seemed to shake it off and do fine. There were a couple of moments, though, when the pocket was closing around him, that Vikings defense was coming in. One in particular, I think they were down by their goal line, and he let loose, I think, a 45-yard bomb to Deshaun Jackson, hit him perfectly on the stride. He did not freak out as the pocket was closing in around him. Is this a sign that maybe he's starting to get that whole pocket quarterback thing?
I was really surprised that he did that well, because what we saw in the preseason and then before he got hurt in the regular season was that if he had time in the pocket, you could see him applying coaching points of being a pocket quarterback. You could see his footwork and other things. But when things broke down, he reverted to his instincts, which were in high school and college to take off and be a mobile playmaker. Well, in this game, he stood in that pocket with it collapsing around him and still delivered the ball.
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't perfect. He didn't move within the pocket like he needs to protect himself from getting hit sometimes. So he took more hits in the pocket than he needed to. But overall, I thought his perseverance is probably the best word.
All right.
To remain in the pocket was really encouraging.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there. Okay, so there's this story that's out there, and I'd like you to address it, that RG3 may not have the support of the team. And to me, I think it's pretty shoddy reporting. I don't particularly believe it. What do you think?
I think that there are people on that team that thought that Colt McCoy should have started. But as far as this report goes, what happened was RG3 was being interviewed down in the locker room, and there were players that were yelling and causing a ruckus. And the reporter said that this was an indication that the team didn't like RG3. I think misinterpreted it.
Yeah.
They actually didn't like it that the Redskins PR staff allowed extra time for the media to be in the locker room, and so they were disrupting that interview because they were messing with the PR staff and the media. Had nothing to do with RG3.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that was misinterpreted by the reporter that said that, but once again, it added tremendous drama that the Redskins then had to deal with, because after a crushing loss where they had a bus accident on the way to the game, the head coach was asked about that situation in the locker room in the post-game interview, which is just more drama for the Redskins that was really not their fault, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you for
We'll leave it right there, Trevor.
And by the way, so much drama created by the sports media. ESPN has completely ESPN hates the Redskins because of their political agenda, and they're trumping up stuff to get at the Redskins. It's driving me crazy.
All right, well, that's our Redskin Report, brought to you by Fork Union Academy.